Shepherd me, O God, from all my wants, from all my fears, from death into life. I appreciate you coming for our series on the 23rd Psalm this month. For those of you who are here for the first time, all through the month of February, we've been using these 6 verses of this familiar psalm to have a chance to reflect on what God is in our life and what it means to be a clergy person in the United Church of Christ. And so, for example, we've started out saying that a good way to look at God is God as a good shepherd. And with God as the shepherd in our life, we lack not. We might not have everything that we want, but we discover we have everything we need. And we discover that when we let God use his tools to guide and direct us, God continually restores and refreshes and renews our spirit. And God leads us down paths wide enough for a wagon to fit down. And we are blessed. And we discovered that even when we find ourselves in dark valleys, in dark places, even there, God is there. That God doesn't always steer us around the dark places, but God is in the dark places with us, leading us through the dark places onto the other side, so that we know that there's always resurrection. There's always new life. And last week, Barbara reminded us that even when we feel oppressed and put down by our enemies, God sets before us a wonderful table and anoints our head, and we are healed and blessed and loved. That's the joy of our faith. And now today we get to the last verse as we say, surely the Lord, God's name appears again. And all the Lord means is the one who is, will pursue us with mercy and with goodness. And we will dwell in God's house all the days of our life. Now, many people take that last statement wondering about what does it mean to dwell in the Lord's house? Does that mean that we spend all our time in God's house? And there are a few people who do that and join monastic orders, but not always. We've used our time to talk about looking at the clergy of a church as assistant good shepherds for the good shepherd. And one of the ways to look at a minister is to look at them as a pastor, as a shepherd. But that a minister has other roles as well, as to be a teacher and to be a prophet and to speak out for truth. So I have a good example for you this morning. So as the pastor, I would like to compliment you on all the food that you brought here yesterday for Christine's Kitchen. And thank you for your service. And as a teacher, I want to remind us that we are all called to be giving people and how important it is to give back what we receive. And as a prophet, it's my job to talk about how not only do we help those who are in need and the poor, but to talk about the systems that allows oppression and poverty, racism, unchecked capitalism, and how we're all part of those systems, and examine what we can do to make for a more just and right society. And so we discovered that for clergy, we live those 3 roles all at the same time. And people get confused about what role the pastor's doing, and sometimes living them all 3 at the same time. And then we come to this place, and we dwell in the house of the Lord all our days. Well, society is telling us that that's not quite so important to people anymore, dwelling in the house of the Lord. Survey after survey tells us that over 75% of the population believes in God, but Only 49% of the population goes to a house of worship on a regular basis. And sociologists tell us that when people fill out those surveys, they tend to fudge a little bit. And it's probably closer to 20% of people attending a place of worship on a regular basis. And so it causes us to ask the question, well, why? And there's lots of reasons. Weather's a good reason. But I'd like to think that one of the reasons is that people aren't being fed enough. People come to church to get spiritually fed, and it's my job and Barbara's job and the choir's job and all our jobs up here is to provide you inspiration to be spiritually fed so that you leave this place refreshed and renewed and invigorated to walk the way. And that's what we try to do in this place. And so I'd like to encourage us on our annual meeting Sunday to be thinking about that. We're to the time in life that we're not at the place where people say, what church? But why church? And we have to be able to answer that question, and we have to be creative enough how to do that. So churches are coming up with all different ways of how to be more creative. For example, I know of a Methodist church in the state of Ohio that over the years became a megachurch and was taking in lots of people and doing lots of activities. But about 2008, 2009, they realized that because the way the culture was changing with the 20s and 30-year-olds, that wasn't going to work with them, continue to work for them. So in addition to what they were doing, they decided to start house churches as part of their congregation. And they trained people to be the leaders of the house churches for about 20 or 30 people that would gather in their homes on a weekly basis. And they would follow a text that was prepared and maybe listen to the sermon the pastor gave the week before and take on a mission project. And the house church got to decide when they were going to meet. Maybe they met Tuesday night or Thursday afternoon or whatever worked out for that group. And they discovered that was one way to continue to get the message out about what it means to be part of the Church of Jesus Christ. And so we have to continue to be creative of how we're going to share the news, because all we're doing is inviting people to make a commitment to follow in the way. How many people here belong to a fitness center or a gym? Oh, a whole bunch of you. How many of you go every week? Well, that's pretty good. How many of you go 3 times a week? Oh, that's even good too. All right. My hunch is that when you decided to join a fitness center, there was something that told you that was an important thing to do. But unless you got positive reinforcement while you were there, that what the benefit was, maybe you weren't so excited about going back the next time. So our job is to give positive reinforcement every time somebody comes here. And to make that a spiritual opportunity to build up our spirit. And to make that a regular commitment. See, I kind of think that there's 2 ways people make a commitment to a church. One's the nurture way and one's the conversion way. And about 200 years ago, in churches like ourselves, we decided we were going to follow the nurture way, where we were going to take kids and we were going to educate them on the ways of Jesus Christ and following the way, so they knew nothing else except for being a Christian and to follow the way. And so that's why all these churches have all these Sunday school buildings attached to their buildings so they can do all that education. And what we're discovering is that because of people's lifestyle, that's not happening quite so much. So maybe we need to think of other ways to bring people and make that commitment to follow the way and have the positive reinforcement of having God in our life. God is our shepherd. And so we have to keep thinking of new ways of how to be the church. One of the ways is, I was going to grab a collection plate, but they all got taken. I think we need to start thinking about a new way of how to do collections, for example. The collection plate was invented so that every time somebody got paid, they put their first fruits into the plate the next Sunday, and then the rest was for them to live on. Well, in our society, people don't see their money. It goes straight into the bank. So I swear I'm going to put a debit card reader on those collection plates. And when it comes time to have the prayer of dedication, just hold up your debit card and we'll bless them, you know. But if people don't have money or they don't have checks, why are we still passing that plate? We're called to invite people to find the power of God in their life and allow that power to give them love and grace and peace and hope and the courage to be just and peaceful, and invite people to walk in that way. And people get so many different messages today, and so our job is to help them figure out how to do all that, because we know that for us and for everybody, there's those dark places. And there's those lonely places. And where else can we come to be loved and cared for and challenged about world issues and to stretch our mind and our body and spirit? So when you read that line today that says, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life," in Hebrew, follow is not a strong enough word. The word is pursue. It says God will provide goodness and mercy shall pursue us all the days of our life. God is pursuing us to be more than we ever thought we could be. To be a church that's alive and full of love and grace and vitality and full of spirit, and to be that example of God alive through Jesus Christ. So I invited you today to read the preamble to our church, because our lay leaders have decided that really is the mission statement of our church. That we're about inspiration, education, reaching out to the lonely, the oppressed, and fighting for justice and peace. That's who we are. And we walk that mantra, and we invite people to be caught up in the power of all those things. And along the way, we discover that we and the world are a better place. Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants, beyond my fears, to its death into life.